I don't think these boots are for everybody. For the last year, I've been walking, hiking, cycling, and even doing a little bit of running in a very weird looking and honestly controversial, which we'll get to, pair of barefoot style hiking boots. These, the Vivobarefoot Tracker Forest ESC. And I'm probably the last person who should be trusted around a pair of barefoot style footwear, because like a lot of people, about 10 years ago, I bought this book, Christopher McDougall's Born to Run. I read it and I was blown away by all the amazing claims of all the amazing benefits from going barefoot. So I finished the book and immediately went outside and took off my shoes and went for a walk on a tarmac road and took all the skin off the bottom of my toes, and I couldn't walk for a week. I bought a pair of those toe shoes. The first time I went out in them, I ran 1 kilometer and did myself so bad of an injury that I couldn't run for at least 2 weeks. I properly tore something. So the question is, why 10 years after that complete disaster do I love these boots so much? And that's what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the controversial of these boots after 1 year of use. And I'm going to do that as I climb the slippy, tricky, treacherous, and rocky tallest mountain in Ireland, Carntool, here in County Kerry. Now, if you want to see my video of this hike, that's going to be separate. I'll link it up here, or I'll link it down in the description. But what do these boots actually like to wear? Well, the first thing you're going to notice is that you can actually feel the ground through them. As I walk along here, I can feel all the individual rocks and stones. I can feel the edge, sort of the sharper edge in that rock. It doesn't hurt, but I can feel it. You can tell the difference between different types of terrain. Your feet do feel more connected to what it is you're walking on. When you step on these, your foot sort of bends a little bit, molds to the shape of that rock. And there's also flexibility in the entire boot. If you look here, when I step, put my toe up against this and bend, the toe of this boot bends and flexes really, really easily. It's quite a remarkable feeling. It's almost a little bit like you're wearing a really, really thick pair of socks. So if you look at a traditional pair of boots, they're very rigid, flat-soled. They've got rigid sides on them. They're designed to immobilize your foot. They're designed to stop your ankle moving around. Barefoot boots, on the other hand, are designed to connect you to the ground and allow your feet to move in a way that strengthens them, so that in theory you'll have stronger ankles and you're not going to roll them anyway, so you don't need that rigid support. Traditional hiking boots and traditional footwear in general tend to have quite pointed toes, and in cultures like ours where we wear more pointed footwear, our feet are a different shape than cultures where they don't wear shoes or they wear very different types of footwear. One of them, you can see the toes are squashed together, perhaps even overlapping. You might recognize that as what your feet look like. And then the other photograph, the toes are splayed almost like fingers, and in some barefoot cultures they're almost able to use their toes as extra fingers. Oh no! Their feet are healthier, stronger, and conditions like bunions are virtually unheard of. The simple idea is that traditional footwear is actually bad for your feet, and barefoot shoes and boots are here to make it right. And the other claim, of course, is that barefoot boots allow you to connect more with nature. Feel the magic of the ground and the blabbity hippity dippity doot. All right, let's take a closer look at these. They look like quite solid boots, but then you do this with them. You can practically roll them into a ball. They are unbelievably flexible. And I bought these despite all my previous problems with barefoot footwear, because I know a few people who have these, absolutely love them, who swear by them, who hike in them all the time and say they're the best thing ever. And they also mentioned that since getting these, their ankle strength had improved a lot. And that was something that really interested me, because I went through a couple of years of rolling my ankles really, really regularly. It happened about 4 times a year. It was awful. I just ended up with permanently weak ankles, and it kind of made me a little bit reluctant to go out as much because I was worried, oh, here we go, I'm gonna roll my ankles again. So I got these over a year ago, and I did make an initial sort of first thoughts review after a month or two, and then Vivo contacted me to say, well, why don't you make a video after a year to see if there's anything you've changed your mind about? And there is one significant thing that I've actually changed my mind on. So yes, this video is sponsored by Vivobarefoot, but they have zero control over anything I say, which means I can say stuff like, I don't think these boots are for everybody. They made my feet hurt once. They're actually quite expensive. A big advantage of Vivo sponsoring this video is that I have a discount code. Right, well, let's get a little bit more in depth now as we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly about these boots, including the two most controversial issues, waterproofing and durability. Okay, let's start with the good, and the good is simply that these are my favorite pair of boots to wear that I've ever had, possibly purely just for that experience of feeling the ground. It's a really unique way to hike, completely changes your hiking experience compared to a pair of boots that isolate you from the ground you're walking on. The grip on these is fantastic. It's super, super aggressive. And yeah, I just feel really confident when I'm hiking in these. Since switching to these, I have rolled my ankles a total of 0 times. I had a pain in my left ankle if I moved my foot a certain way. That pain's gone, it no longer exists. So whatever they've done, 100% they've strengthened my ankles and my feet. My traditional pair of hiking boots, I hate now because they just feel so incredibly heavy on my feet. These, they're just like glorified slippers. And one other unexpected benefit of them being so flexible like this means they're much easier to put on and off than a normal pair of boots. Let me show you. So 2 seconds and those are on. And this matters a lot more when you're camping, because it means when you're camping, you can take your boots off, you can take the laces, tuck them down the inside of the boots, and then you have a really easy pair of slip on, slip off boots that you can wear around camp. I mean, often people bring separate footwear for around camp because of just how incredibly uncomfortable their boots are. That should tell you something. Because they're made from natural leather, they're really breathable, so they dry out really fast. So if you do get your feet wet and you're out camping and you take these boots off and it's, you know, it's reasonably warm and maybe there's a bit of a breeze overnight, they dry out quite quickly. I get really bored when I'm hiking out of the mountains, and sometimes I just like to try and run a little bit, and you can't really do that in a normal pair of boots. They're not flexible or light enough, but you can do it in the Vivos. Woo! All right, so that was the good, but now we've got a couple of things that sit in between the good. They're the controversial issues, and the first one is the question of waterproofing, because some people say these aren't waterproof at all, they're an absolute nightmare, and other people say they're absolutely amazing waterproofness, they're bomb-proof. So what's going on there? Both people can't be right and both people can't be wrong. Well, the fact is, these are water resistant and waterproof up to a point, but they're designed to be breathable more than they're designed to be completely waterproof. They're made of natural leather, which has a natural waterproofness, and you can improve that and you can maintain that by regularly cleaning them and applying this sort of natural wax product to these boots. I can go out for a day hiking in these, splash through puddles, it can rain, and you know, I can step in some mud and my feet are absolutely dry for an entire day's hike in typical conditions. Now, there are a couple of circumstances where these do start to let in water, and I found the first one was if I'm walking all day in really, really long grass, that contact forces the moisture into them. So when I spent a day hiking through lots of really wet and damp grass and undergrowth, I did find that they got a little bit damp on the inside. And then the other condition is if you're just out hiking in incredibly damp days, bogs for hours and hours and hours, moisture will eventually get in. But that is a trade-off with the breathability that these boots have. Now, if you do want a pair of barefoot style boots that are 100% waterproof, Vivobarefoot do make a pair, but honestly, I much prefer these. Other controversial point then is durability, because some people look at these and see how they roll up and squash and so on and think, well, they're gonna fall apart. I've been wearing these for pretty much all my hiking for the last year, and there is still tons of tread left in the sole. The stitching is all there. The seams are all good. Now, that's been my own personal experience with these boots, but I thought I'd maybe give you a few insights from someone who's hiked in these a lot more than I have. Here's Mike.
Third and last take. Steve lads, hope you're all doing well. Stephen has asked me to review these boots, particularly how durable they are. As you can see, 4 years, well over 1,000 kilometers later, they are looking absolutely fantastic. I've given them such a battering and they're still doing really well. And yeah, so I suppose the biggest durability issue has been the scuffing on the front there. They've really been a game changer for me in terms of footwear, as most of my footwear are now Vivobarefoot, and it's primarily because of these, so well worth the money.
I wash these down, remove the mud after every single hike and reapply that balm, and no issues whatsoever. Something that Vivo offer is a service called Revo, where you can go and you can pay a fee to get your boots completely revived. I think for £80 they'll completely resole them, they'll refurbish the upper, they'll fix the laces, eyelets, they'll pretty much have them as good as new as they can without replacing absolutely everything. A lot of other brands would simply say, oh, just spend £200 and buy a new pair of boots. Right, let's talk about the bad, and probably the first thing is that if you want to wear these, you have to transition into them. You cannot just go from traditional shoes, stick these on and go out, because your feet aren't used to them. They might be a bit weak in certain places, and also you use different muscles when you hike with these. Because they have a flat sole, they've got no heel on them, it's called zero drop. What that means is you need to use your calf muscle a lot more. So if you put a pair of these on for the first time, you'll probably notice a bit of extra strain in your calves. So you've got to take time to transition, and that transition period can take, it can take months. For me, it took about 6 months. But the other bad point is I think some people will just never get on with these, because if you spent your entire life wearing normal restrictive shoes, well, I don't know, maybe your feet might be too far gone. So I am kind of open-minded to the point that it might be the case that they're just not going to work for everyone. Something that really frustrated me with these boots and nearly made me return them was the very first time I put these on, they gave me pain, not on my foot, but on my Achilles heel, because the back bit here of them, it rubbed my Achilles something serious. It was really painful. Every step I take, every step you take. Anyway, and I nearly returned them, but I decided to persevere. I rubbed a bit of boot balm in here, I stretched them, and I just kept wearing them. And after a few weeks, this softened up and the pain went away. And I know I'm not the only one, because I have seen people in comments say they had the same issue. So just to warn you, if you do get them, there might be a little bit of a breaking in period like that. I find that if it's under about, 4 or 5 degrees and it's wet and windy and cold, or at sub-zero temperatures with snow and ice, I found I started to get cold feet in these, even with a thick pair of socks. Let's be honest, they do have less protection than stronger boots. And if you slip or slide down a rock and you bang your toe in these, it will hurt more than it does in traditional boots, because there's just less protection there. And again, it's one of those things where you're trading off the benefits of strengthening your feet and making them less prone to injury versus having slightly less protection around your feet. To get the most from these and maintain their durability, you do have to regularly clean them and retreat them. So if you're a lazy sod, you might want to look at something that has less maintenance. Finally, if you get used to these, when you go back to trying to hike in normal boots, the normal boots will hurt. I've never found my normal boots particularly comfortable, but they were particularly uncomfortable after I'd spent all summer in these. And finally, we come to the ugly. And I think the first thing is the visual. These are kind of a Marmite boot when it comes to the look. Some people hate these. They think they're hideous. Some people think they look quite nice. I think these look quite nice. I think there's some of Vivo's other boots look a little bit weird, somewhat subjective looks. Lastly then, under ugly, is the cost. They are expensive. They're £220. Although, if you look around at the top hiking boots, they are all in and around that price, or even more. There's hiking boots up to £270 plus. So you have to kind of compare like for like, compare them at the same range. I think the issue that some people have is because these are so, lightweight, people see them as being in a different class, as like a bulky, heavy boot, where somehow that extra weight means more value for money somehow. But personally, I judge the cost of something not based on that initial cost, but based on how much use I will get out of it long term, and then how I feel about them in general. And for me, yes, while these were expensive to buy, I genuinely feel that they were worth the money. So what did I change my mind about then from my first video? And the thing I changed my mind about in the first video was, in the first video I said that I didn't think these would be suitable for anything longer than maybe 6 or 7 miles or half a day out for a hike. But a year later, I don't feel that way at all. I actually think these are more comfortable over long distance than my previous pair of boots. And you heard from Mike there. Mike has walked 20, 30 miles in a day in these with no issues. It's just a matter of getting used to them. And once you get used to them, they are a 100% replacement for a normal pair of boots. I've been out now for 10 hours in these boots, and they have been put through a stress test unlike any other I've ever done. I have been walking up gullies filled with scree and loose, sharp, pointy rocks. I have been walking through almost waterfalls coming down. I've walked through bog, I've walked through mud. These boots have gone through the full spectrum of conditions. I've walked through loose, sharp, spiky rocks. On the summit, I've come down steep descents. I've even had to do a little bit of scrambling on the way back down. So the question is, how do my feet feel after all of that? Because after all, that's all that really matters. First of all, I will say my feet are not wet. At best, a hint of dampness, which to be honest could just be sweat because it has been quite warm today. I've been sweating all day. To be honest, my feet feel a little bit achy. I'm not gonna lie to you, I've been out for 10 hours. It's not the kind of ache I get in my normal hiking boots. They feel, it's more of like it's like a warm tingling. I wouldn't even describe as painful. It's more sort of my feet are telling me, hello, we're here. We've done a lot of work today. And when I'm out in my heavy traditional hiking boots, I get a deep ache that almost seems to come from right within my bones in my feet. And I don't get that with these. It just doesn't happen now that I've gotten used to them. Okay, so my final thought is just chuck everything else away. And for me, it boils down to the fact that I just love hiking in these. I love the experience of it. I love to feel the ground underneath my feet. I love that lightweightness of them. I like how they make me feel I can hop and bounce around again. And these boots genuinely bring me joy, and that aspect alone is enough for me. Might not be enough for you. Let me know in the comments what you think about these boots. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see the rest of this hike, make sure and check out that video, link in the description and link up here. So after talking to you about how amazing these boots are, I've just ended up spending 5 minutes here giving the pitch to these guys. What's your names?
Sophie.
And Dan.
Sophie and Dan, who after me talking to them for 5 minutes, I think are thoroughly convinced about the virtues of barefoot boots.
Definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going straight to the shop after this.
Straight to the shop. I have a discount code actually I can give you.
Yes.